For so many of us, winter break is everything. It's a time to rest, relax, and hit the reset button before heading back to school in January. Many of our students and families also look forward to winter break. They've planned vacations, special family trips, and other adventures they've been looking forward to for weeks. But this isn't the case for all students, and it's something we need to be sensitive to as educators. In today's We Are Teachers Helpline episode, we're talking through questions not to ask students about their winter break and what to ask instead. Welcome to We Are Teachers Helpline. I'm your host, Kimberly Gorelick. For those of you not familiar with Helpline, let me tell you more about it. We Are Teachers started the Helpline Facebook group several years ago to give educators a safe and quality space to talk about the day-to-day aspects of being a teacher. It's such an amazing resource. There's so much wonderful support in this group for teachers and by teachers. I see it every single day. So really, Helpline is for you, and this episode is for you. I am here, and the entire We Are Teachers staff is here to help you and to support you in everything that comes with being a teacher. So our topic today is one that I'm incredibly passionate and opinionated about. It's about what you shouldn't say to your students after they return from winter break, or actually even before they head out for winter break. It kind of happens all around winter break. We all think it's going to be amazing, but for some people, winter break's not that amazing. It's a break from schedules, it's a break from their friends, and they're going sometimes to places they'd prefer not to be. We Are Teachers has a very popular article about this, and we've invited the writer of that piece, Megan Mathis, to join me to talk about it. Let's bring her on. Hi, Megan. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So can you give us an overview of the article? What's it about?
Absolutely. It really started from a place of me thinking about the questions that I typically was asking my students, either before we left for break. What are you excited about? What do you hope you get as a present? And then those questions we ask when we come back to kind of get the culture in the classroom building again. And I realized that some of the questions I was asking my students might not be the best questions to ask to be equitable and to take all of my students' backgrounds into account.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I've come across that myself. In first grade, I had a student tell me quietly in the corner that she didn't want to share, and please don't choose her because she just watched TV all Christmas break. And I was like, I love TV. TV's the best. I'm so relaxed when I watch TV. And you could see that kind of eased her stress a little bit, but I still didn't choose her because I think we have to respect what people want to share and what they don't want to share. And
Absolutely.
sure, there were lots of kids that went to Disney or to the beach, but there are also kids that, hung around and watched TV a lot. And I think that's fair. What made you decide? You sort of talked a little bit about it, but what made you really decide to write this article?
I was offered an opportunity by my school to take a grad course offered through the University of Pennsylvania on how to create a classroom environment that's a little bit more conducive to teaching all students, but with a specific lens of teaching students who are coming from poverty or trauma backgrounds. And one of the things that hit home the most for me was I think all teachers will admit we have strengths and weaknesses. Maybe, we don't grade things on time as often as we should, or we do this or that. But most teachers really pride themselves on creating a classroom culture of caring and of making all of our students feel welcome. And when we started to go through this list, I realized that I would have been one of those teachers who said, my classroom is a place where my students feel safe, they feel welcome, I'm happy to see them. But I was doing things and I was asking questions that might not have made all of my students feel safe and welcome. And it was a real eye-opener for me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And for those of you teachers who are listening to this and thinking, this doesn't really apply to me, I think we can all learn about how to listen more and how to ask questions in an open-ended way. We talk about poverty, but the truth is that, recent reports show that 40% of people say they're struggling to make ends meet month to month. I think, teachers everywhere will say amen to that. But I know for me, just my electric bill has gone up significantly. And that makes it harder for me. I mean, that means I'm rebudgeting everything.
Exactly.
And
And we
so,
think that our students don't notice that, but they do. Even our youngest students, they know when their parents are stressed. They know when things are different. So it's affecting the
absolutely.
study.
And I think the thing that one thing I learned about the way we talk to kids or to anybody really is i- if we ask really specific questions, sometimes we scare them away. So, for example, I learned a long time ago when a child shows you their art project, that you should say, "Hey, tell me about this art project. Tell me about what you did," rather than say, "I really like that dog," and they were like, "That's my uncle." That actually happened to me before. So let's see. We're going to get to the actual questions and how to rephrase them in a second. But I just kind of want to go over a couple of sort of devil's advocate questions for people who say, none of my students live in poverty. None of my students' parents are struggling. I live in the richest community. So tell me what you would say to them.
I think I would say I would take a twofold approach to that. One is I think that, as you pointed out, the statistics show that everybody is struggling and you might not know it. There are a lot of people who are struggling in some cases for the first time. So they might not be the ones that we normally think of or who are comfortable reaching out to take advantage of free and reduced lunch or things like that. So you really can't tell who might be struggling or who might not be. And so it really is just a better plan to err on the side of making people feel comfortable and safe rather than just assuming that it doesn't relate to you. And I think the other side of it is just that it might not be poverty, but it might be trauma. Maybe they get 8 million presents, but mom and dad were fighting the whole time. That's
Oh, yeah.
still,
I mean, that's a great
that's
one,
still a
right?
big aspect of it, that it's not just financial problems that might make Christmas break or winter break tough for some kids. It might be the other things that are going on in their household that they
And I
don't want
think
to talk about.
another question that or comment that people will make is it doesn't seem fair that the kids who had a great time over a break don't get to share that. And I think for that, I say that's, of course they get to share that. Part of the joy of having, your school family together is that you get to learn from other people's experiences. And so when other people tell you about their trips to the beach, that's something that you can store away in your brain as a young child and know that maybe your parents aren't going to provide that for you right now, but later you can provide that for yourself. So I think it's important that we know where we're going. Let's move right into the 5 things of what not to say to kids after spring break or winter break or any break, quite frankly. And so we're going to give suggestions for instead of saying this, try saying that. So let's get started. So the first one is instead of asking, what was your favorite gift? Megan, I'll let you try asking and why.
Absolutely. This was one of my favorite questions for my younger kiddos when I taught elementary. What was your favorite gift? Tell me about it. And instead, it's just easier to ask what's something you'd like to share about your winter break? And Kimberly, this goes right to your point. If you got the newest games system and you can't wait to talk about it and you're so excited, you have that opportunity. But if a kiddo got clothes because that's what their parents knew they really needed, maybe they talk about how they played with their siblings. Maybe they talk about how they binge watched all of their favorite TV show and it was awesome. It gives everybody the opportunity to be included.
I love that. The next one I can take, it's what gift did you give your mom, dad, or sibling? And the thing is that kind of backs people into a corner if they didn't give anybody something. And also when you say mom, dad, or sibling, it assumes that that child has all of those at home or at least one of those. And that's not always the case either.
Or a
So
positive relationship.
instead, try asking, what was one good, happy, or interesting thing you saw or did? And I think you're sensing a theme here, right? The idea is to keep things open-ended so people can respond the way they feel comfortable responding. And I feel like we can learn from that in so many ways. Like, don't we all wish our principals asked things this way as well?
And it keeps the focus on positive too, which I think is important. Just because you watch TV all break, if that's what you needed, great.
Exactly. Why don't you take this one? Instead of asking, what did you eat for your big holiday meal?
Absolutely. We know not all of our kids are having a big holiday meal. So, what's one reason you're happy to be back in our class? Let's focus on what we can control. We can control our classroom. Why are you happy to be back? Who are you looking forward to seeing? What do you like about our room?
I mean, I love this. Also, in the beginning, right before holiday break, whenever I say to first graders, I can't wait to see you when you come back, everything will be here
Mhm.
still. That's a weight off their shoulders.
Right.
I think kids, they don't know for sure that when they come back, everything's going to be there. And they want to know that you're going to be there too. So I think I love this one. The next one is, instead of asking what was the best thing you did over winter break, try asking what's one goal you have for yourself for the rest of the school year. And I love this because, I think we all know that when you live for one holiday, you're bound to disappoint yourself at some point. And I think that teaching kids that there's always hope, there's always the next thing you can plan for, have a goal for, can make a huge difference.
Agree completely.
And then this is the last one. What was
I
the
used to
least
think, oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I used to think this one was great because I was saying, what was the least fun thing? I was giving the alternative. What was the worst
Yes.
or least fun thing about winter break? And I didn't really think about some people could have some really terrible things that they didn't want to share with me.
And so instead, go right ahead.
It's what would you like to tell me? What would you like me to know as we head into the second half of the school year? And again, this respects every student. Some kid might say, nothing, I'm good, thanks. But if there's a student who really needs to share something or who wants to let you know something so you can better work with them in the second half of the year, this respects that and gives them that opportunity to share.
I love that because I also think that we don't ask enough questions like this of kids in general.
Mhm.
Like, if we want kids to think about what's happening in front of them, we need to give them time to think about it and share it in a way that's more structured. So I love this question.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for writing this article and for being a part of our We Are Teachers family.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing it to the helpline audience. I think a lot of people can think about the questions that we ask and how to do it better.
And also, thanks to the teachers who are listening, because even listening means you care and you're showing up for your teachers. I want to encourage everyone out there to check out this article on We Are Teachers, search for it on the site, you'll find it. And also to come on We Are Teachers Helpline, the Facebook group, ask to join. It's a really easy process. And share your ideas, ask questions, and respond to other people. It's just a great way to feel like you've got other people with you and you've got a support system no matter where you are. So
It's such a
thanks for
supportive
joining
way.
us on this episode of We Are Teachers Helpline, and we'll see you again soon.